So first and foremost,
I think the addition of pant leggings is really when you start to see your heroes get watered down.
can't even muster the ability to play straight pants that one.
Which is a good argument for absolute rulers.
Everybody is going to get behind me. They're all going to love me, and my support numbers will go through the roof.
When you hang out with the hero, it doesn't go well for you.
My grandfather
Yeah.
took the cob and just slid it right through the bar.
Oh, God. Okay.
And that became the dominant way our family did it.
Okay.
And so, in both of my marriages, they were treated to that.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Yeah, rage haiku.
How do you imagine the rubber chicken point?
My grandmother actually vacuumed in her pearls. Oh my God, it all makes sense. We'd had the sexual revolution.
It
and-
might have just been a Canadian standoff. We're going to go back to 9/11.
Dude, get over it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody understands what the Bill of Rights is supposed to be.
Agra has no business being that thick.
When the cultists win, we all win.
This is a Geek History of Time.
Where we connect nerdery to the real world. My name is Ed Blaylock. I'm a world history teacher with a side of radio reading here in Northern California. And in personal news, my wife and I we're a little more than halfway through WandaVision, and we're like behind everybody else in the geek universe. Because my wife is an adult adoptee into the tribe as opposed to being raised in the culture. And so we didn't get around to watching it. But there's also the fact that we have a 3-year-old, and so our viewing time is somewhat limited.
Sure.
We spend an awful lot of time in Blippi's company these days when our boy is awake, rather than watching stuff we'd like to be watching. And now that I said that, I now have the Excavator song stuck in my head. So I regret bringing it up. How about you?
I'm Damian Harmony. I am a Latin teacher up here in Northern California. Let's see, as a personal note, I don't have much except that my daughter, I showed my children Watership Down, and my daughter did a deep dive down the rabbit hole, as it were, on European rabbits to write up their culture.
Okay.
So now she knows a ton about European rabbits, their mating habits, how they keep their warrens, what they do, what their gestation is, etc.
Wow.
Then we watched White Fang, because my son really likes White Fang.
Okay.
And then she did another deep dive on dogs.
Okay.
And now she knows everything about their gestation habits and on and on and on. And there's many breeds.
Wow.
Meanwhile, my son, she asked him, she's like, hey, can I quiz you on different dog types and this and that? He's like, I only like kittens. That boy really loves kittens. They are his favorite animal. And he will tell you everything about them if you ask him.
Well, yeah.
But, you know.
Just like my son will tell you everything you ever wanted to know about Pachycephalosaurus.
Yep.
Or,
Archaeopteryx.
Armored
Ankylosaurus.
Ankylosaurus. Thank you.
Sure.
So yeah. But yeah, no. When they get,
you gotta start getting him
fixed
to
on
watch
something, you know.
Start getting him to watch Dino Saucers.
Okay.
It is a fun little cartoon,
Okay.
and they're dinosaurs that came from space.
Okay. I'll look it up, and we'll have to.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything
Anything to supplant Blippy.
Now,
Please. Dear God, please.
I know I've showed them comedies recently, but I can't remember for the life of me what comedies I've showed them. But there is some stuff that was really, really abstract that they both really, really liked. But now I'll get to that in the next episode or so.
Yeah.
There was one other thing I was gonna say about what my son does vis-a-vis the kittens or the dogs, but darned if I can forget it. So
Okay.
Oh well. You and your dinosaurs.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So when last we talked, I promised I'd talk to you about wrestling, and then I talked about Michel Foucault and racism in LA.
Yes.
At least this time I'm going to move over to New York.
Oh, okay.
Which is where there's some wrestling based out of.
Yes.
So hopefully
Don't tease me.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't tease me.
All
Let's
right.
get into what we're going to get into, and then we can.
All right.
All right.
So you remember last time we talked about the LA riots?
Yes.
Post the acquittal
Yeah.
of 4 officers who
Beat the ever-loving
yeah,
daylights
out of Rodney
Rodney
King.
King
Yes.
on video.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
56 times.
With a baton.
Yeah.
Like
Each. And they kicked him 7 times.
and kicked him
And they
hit
stun gunned him.
Stun gunned him repeatedly.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, you know, you hear
Mhm.
hit him 56 times.
56, yeah.
56 times. What I don't think it's really possible to convey
Mhm.
verbally is when you hear they hit him with a baton 56 times. You need to understand that hitting somebody with a baton is not the same thing as
No.
hauling off and you know, punching somebody or you know, anything like that.
Yeah.
A baton
Was made to hit people.
was made specifically to be a weapon, and
yes.
it is not lethal in the way that a gun or a knife could be. But the amount of trauma and the kind of injury that we're talking about them
Yeah.
inflicting on this man, saying it is, unless you have watched somebody practice like martial arts with a tonfa, which
Yeah, I was gonna say,
which is the
yeah.
the you know, Eastern martial arts ancestor
Right.
of a police
Or hell, just
baton
watch
these days.
Eskrima or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Until you've actually seen the kinds of the amount of energy that gets delivered when something gets struck by that.
Mhm.
Hearing, well, they hit him with a baton 56 times, you know, you think of like a relay baton
Right.
or
That's hollow.
or a British officer's swagger stick.
Right.
Like, no, this is a heavy, solid object
Made for hitting.
made for hitting. Yeah. And it's
Here, I'll give you
the level of violence is sickening.
Yeah. I'll give you a good example. You ever leave open a cabinet and then
Yeah.
you lean into it and it doesn't give and you've now feel like you've just dented your forehead? And
Yeah.
it hurts like the dickens because it didn't
Yeah.
move and all that force went
All
right
that
into
all
your
that
forehead.
energy went straight into the
Right.
bone of your skull.
Or
Yeah.
have you've got a little one, have you ever gotten up and you swung to turn around and you smacked your head into the side of a wall? I've done this on a corner.
Yeah.
It hurts, right?
Oh, well, I'll do you.
That's-
I'll do
well,
you.
hang on.
Okay.
That pain is nowhere near as much as getting hit with a baton.
Yeah.
And most people have had those pains
Yeah.
because you're moving at a slow rate
Yeah.
in a short distance.
Yeah.
These are people, while he is on the ground, going up above their shoulders, coming down with force
Oh yeah.
56 times and kicking him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's awful.
stomach churning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the other side of the country,
Yeah.
in September of 1992,
Okay.
okay, so that was April.
Yeah.
Now let's skip a few. Now it's in September.
Yeah.
Just a couple of months before the election between Clinton, Bush, and Perot,
Yeah.
the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association demonstrated in protest of David Dinkins, black mayor.
Right.
First black mayor of New York, I believe.
Okay. I think so.
And then mayor of New York, David Dinkins is then mayor of New York, who would be up for re-election in the following year. His effort at making an all-civilian police misconduct review board.
Right.
So they took to the streets to protest an all-civilian police misconduct review board. Now, you pointed out last time that police are also civilians,
Yeah.
but this is an all non-police.
Yeah. And
Okay.
all private citizen.
Yes. Misconduct review board. Not a sentencing body, not a jurisdictional body, no, this is a misconduct review. So if you've been charged with misconduct, then you go to this review board and these people review the charges and determine some things, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dinkins was New York's first black mayor. He had beaten out the establishment Democrat Ed Koch.
Yes.
And he held off Rudy Giuliani to win the mayorship in 1990.
Yeah.
Now, what I find interesting is that Dinkins beat out the establishment Democrat Ed Koch. Do you remember a couple years ago when AOC beat out she primaried and beat out the establishment Democrat?
Yeah.
So you've got some people that are actually able to run to the left.
Yeah.
With some success.
Yeah.
California, look into it. So
work on that.
he holds off Rudy Giuliani to win in 90. His attempts at combating the rising crime in New York, now remember it's 90, the rising ethnic and racial disparity and distrust in New York, and the blighted economy met with a lot of success, but with a lot of mixed reviews. Shocking that a black man being successful at fighting the very things that he is fighting against is met with mixed reviews. Okay. And it's not like his presidency or his mayorship was without troubles. The Crown Heights riot happened during his tenure.
Yeah.
But as the economy continued to decline, the murder rate in New York also declined, which I found interesting. Yeah. He also started a housing rehabilitation project that brought a lot of dilapidated houses out of ruin.
Okay.
Now, this isn't broken windows theory, which in itself is
a different... Yeah.
Which is a
systemically racist. Yeah.
But back to the police demonstration. So on September 16th, 1992, 10,000 off-duty police officers swarmed the area near City Hall. Now, as I recall, the amount of police in New York outnumber the amount of Coast Guard that we have. Yeah.
I'd have to look that up, but okay.
Yeah. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 56,000 police officers in New York.
Okay.
Well, and 10,000 of them were off duty. That's 1/5 your force. That makes sense.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy crap.
So they swarmed the area near City Hall. 2,000 of them marched onto the Brooklyn Bridge. In both areas, they assaulted reporters who were trying to cover the demonstration. Off-duty police officers are assaulting reporters. And in all places, they objected to the call for increased police accountability.
Yeah.
The police who were marching said that if there was going to be a review board for their misconduct, there would be no police force. It's a hell of a line to draw.
Yeah.
Either or, not both. Either or. Plenty of uniformed police officers were there too, because, it's a demonstration. And it was the same group of uniformed officers who made very little attempt to control the crowd. Law and order advocates were largely silent on the matter. Former and soon-to-be mayoral candidate Rudy Giuliani, a former federal prosecutor whose future administration would fiercely promote zero-tolerance policing, took part in the protests himself.
Yep.
When asked if the police got out of hand, which they had, the president of the Policemen's Benevolent Association said, quote, "Sometimes, if emotionalism is not evoked publicly, the responsible elements of the community do not listen."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that sounds an awful lot like somebody trying to sound very, very rational and very logical while saying a riot is the voice of the unheard or the voice of the oppressed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's quite a contrast. Really,
Yeah.
but it is also wholly on brand. Now, these are police who are angry about the idea of non-police getting to criticize and call them out.
Yeah.
And they're not having it.
Yeah.
So
Well-
they do the only thing that they can do and protest and riot violently against reporters.
Yeah.
Police officers carried signs that read, "No justice, no police."
Wow.
The PBA president also said that Dinkins' efforts at policing reform aimed at bringing down violence in different neighborhoods would invite more chaos. Chaos.
Yeah.
Crime is going to get worse, he said. The streets will become less safe than they are. He was wrong.
Yeah, well,
the data bears out that he was wrong. Crime went down in the 1990s, even though white fear continued to rise. And Giuliani took over, winning by a very narrow margin, though in white areas, panic seemed to send a lot of white people to the polls. And that's an interesting privilege that white people have. When they get scared, they get to vote.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is the fact that there's this definite idea that we need to give the police all of this leeway, because if we don't, they're not going to be able to do their job.
Right.
We can't leash them in any way because if we limit them in any way, then the bad guys are gonna run riot. You know,
Right.
This concept on the right that cops have to be Judge Dredd in order to do their job.
Mm-hmm. Remember, that was a satire.
Yeah, I know. I
You
I
told
talked
me.
about it.
Yeah.
And it was a satire written in response to a right-wing government coming into power and completely undoing the post-war détente between the
Yes.
right and the left, the status quo. And so the funny thing about it is anybody who bothers to look at policing and law enforcement anywhere else in the developed world would understand that's not true. It's
Right.
patently and demonstrably false.
You could even look here in America, because there are some cities that have done reports and studies and then actually did what those reports and studies told them to do, and you saw shit go down by a significant amount.
Yeah, you saw the level of crime go down because communities were more comfortable going to
Right.
authorities and law enforcement and saying, "Hey, we need help with this thing."
Yep.
So it's this knee-jerk authoritarian kick.
Which is, here's an interesting wrinkle to that. Daryl Gates, guy from LA, actually did advocate for that same thing. He said, you do not get to pull people over that you suspect of being illegal.
Yeah.
He put a stop to that. Complex dude.
Yeah.
Still a right bastard in too many respects for me to have much respect, but he did absolutely do that. He did do that.
Even a stop clock is right twice a day.
Exactly. So after this demonstration, civilians reported to the local police station that they had witnessed 6 officers assault a man on a subway. They goaded him into producing a razor blade to defend himself, because this is the subway in New York. And then they swarmed him and beat the shit out of him. And during the riots, because they did turn it into riots, the uniformed police did nothing really to curb it. Hundreds were reportedly drunk in public as well, which is interesting because they would often pull people off their own porches at that time. And these were all blue lives. They all chose this profession, and they were protesting non-police oversight over their misconduct, not even over their policing, just the misconduct. These are all chosen blue lives. I would just like to point out that they're out there marching for blue lives specifically, and this is what they do. Now, if you just contrast that with maybe last summer, and I have the numbers somewhere on my phone because I had to take a fellow teacher to task about saying that the Antifa riots, and I was like, no. Here's the numbers, honey.
Yeah.
But here's an excerpt from Nat Hentoff, writing for the Cato Institute. I hope I pronounced his name right. Quote, reporters and innocent bystanders were violently assaulted by the mob as thousands of dollars in private property was destroyed in multiple acts of vandalism. The protesters stormed up the steps of City Hall, occupying the building. It is a weird thing that white people like to occupy buildings a lot. Mm-hmm. They then streamed onto the Brooklyn Bridge, where they blocked traffic in both directions. Jumping onto the cars of trapped, terrorized motorists. Many of the protesters were carrying guns and openly drinking alcohol. Yet the uniformed police present did little to stop them. Why? Because the rioters were nearly all white, off-duty NYPD officers. They were participating in a Patrolmen's Benevolent Association demonstration against Mayor David Dinkins' call for a civilian-compliant review board and his creation earlier that year of the Mullen Commission, formed to investigate widespread allegations of misconduct within the NYPD. In the center of that mayhem, standing on top of a car while cursing Mayor Dinkins through a bullhorn, was mayoral candidate Rudy Giuliani. Beer cans and broken beer bottles littered the streets as Mr. Giuliani led the crowd in chants. I just really like to contrast that with January 6th for a second.
Yeah.
Well, I can't, because they're kind of the same thing.
Kind of.
Similar cast, too.
Yeah.
The New York Times reported that Newsday columnist Jimmy Breslin described the racial conduct in chilling detail. Quote, The cops held up several of the most crude drawings of Dinkins, black, performing perverted sex acts, he wrote. And here was one of them calling across the top of his beer can held to his mouth, "How do you like the," expletive deleted N-word, "beating you up in Crown Heights?" The off-duty cops were referring to a severe beating that Breslin suffered while covering the 1991 Crown Heights riots in Brooklyn. So they're yelling at this reporter.
Wow.
Breslin continues, "Now others began screaming, 'How do you like what the,' expletive deleted N-words, 'did to you in Crown Heights?' Now you got a," expletive deleted N-word, "right inside City Hall. How do you like that? A," expletive deleted N-word, "mayor." And they put it right out in the sun yesterday in front of City Hall, Breslin wrote. "We have a police force that is openly racist."
Wow.
That's 1992? Yep. So, coast to coast, you have a racial animus of white aggrievement underlying social unrest occurring between the traditionalists and those advocating for change.
Okay. Yes.
During an election year. Now, much more niche. Promised I'd get to wrestling.
Okay.
In WCW, a southern-based wrestling company, but one that had access to TBS, a national cable national cable network.
Yes.
Ron Simmons became the first black recognized world champion in wrestling when he defeated Big Van Vader in September of 1992.
All right.
This was truly a big deal in wrestling. However, he wasn't actually the first. The thing is, as we've talked about, in wrestling, the world was filled with different territories. So each territory had its own world champion. And as a result, they didn't recognize each other's world championships all the time, especially the ones that existed outside of the structure of the NWA of the 1900s.
Yeah.
Still, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Bearcat Wright. Bearcat Wright was a babyface most places that he went. And in Indiana, he refused to wrestle for segregated crowds. As such, the Indiana Athletic Commission suspended him. See, back then, wrestlers had to actually get a wrestler's license in every state as though it was a legitimate sport. That kept up kayfabe. And you had to do this at your own cost, all to protect kayfabe. So anyway, they suspended his wrestling license in Indiana until boxing got desegregated in 1961. Shortly thereafter, he defeated Killer Kowalski to become the equivalent of the world champion in Indiana. And then he went on over to LA, because you leave when you're at the top of your game. So you're going to drop the belt, but then you leave, right? Bearcat Wright defeated Classy Freddie Blassie in August of 19...
these names.
Oh, in August of 63.
They don't have these names anymore. Killer Kowalski, Classy Blassie. Yeah, I mean, dude.
Well, here's some fun detail for you. You've heard of Triple H, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You've heard of China.
Yeah.
Okay. Both of them were trained by Killer Kowalski.
No kidding.
Yeah. It gets even more fun. Killer Kowalski was named such because a guy that he was wrestling had cauliflower ear, and Killer hit him hard enough that knocked the cauliflower ear off his head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's all calcified. So
yeah,
it'll snap off, right?
Yeah.
Killer Kowalski also all his life was a vegetarian.
Really?
So, weird little detail.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, but Classy Freddie Blassie, the term pencil neck geek, that's his.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
In fact, there's a song from Dr. Demento that you'd mentioned Dr. Demento, I think, last time.
Pencil neck geek.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was homage to Classy Freddie Blassie. Classy Freddie Blassie was based largely out of LA. And he was a heel. He had people who stabbed him on his way to the ring. One guy threw acid at him.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he got heat in the best ways. When he was older, he was a manager.
Yeah.
Okay. He managed the team of Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
Okay.
Who were the World Tag Team Champions in 1984 in WWF.
Yeah.
More importantly, though, he managed a guy in, I think, 82 or 83 named Sterling Golden. You might know Sterling Golden by his more popular name, Hulk Hogan.
Oh, nice.
This Hogan's second trip through the New York territory is when he became Hulk Hogan.
All right.
So Classy Freddie Blassie managed a whole bunch of like really well-known wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
He typically would manage the Foreigners,
Yeah.
So anyway, in 63, though, he was in his prime as a wrestler, and he lost to Bearcat Wright. So Bearcat Wright becomes the world champion of the Worldwide Wrestling Associates, an organization that didn't get absorbed into the NWA until 1968, when then it got renamed as NWA Hollywood Wrestling.
Okay.
Now, Bearcat Wright is one of the kinds of wrestlers that's kind of interesting. First off, he was the first black man to win a championship. As far as I could figure. Actually, there is one more guy who does it with the NWA championship, but we're going to get into that in a second. But Bearcat Wright refused to do jobs sometimes.
Okay.
And so when you're champion and you refuse to do the job, that's a problem. And so he refused to drop the belt to either Eduardo Carpentier, who was a guy from the Montreal territory, I want to say.
Okay.
Or Freddie Blassie again. So the WWA stripped him of the belt and awarded it to Carpentier on December of that same year. So December of 63. Now, there's a whole fun story about that, but again, another rabbit hole I had to walk past.
Yeah.
Now, technically, Bobo Brazil had also won the NWA championship almost a year earlier in October of 62. But the NWA at that point was running this cool gimmick where the face would hit Nature Boy Buddy Rogers.
Okay.
Nature Boy Buddy Rogers is the one who then gave the name to Ric Flair.
Right.
When Ric Flair beat him with Nature Boy Buddy Rogers' own figure 4 hold.
Oh,
in the 70s,
right? Okay.
But Nature Boy Buddy Rogers was the first champion of the WWF.
Got it.
That's when they split from the NWA, and Buddy Rogers went with them. Buddy Rogers was a right prick, apparently, because he would bring in all his own guys, and he would only wrestle them for the most part. But Bobo Brazil was so popular that Buddy Rogers had to wrestle him, too.
Okay.
So Rogers is the champion, okay, and he's a heel. And he would always say, to a nicer guy, it couldn't happen. Which, I just love that in 1960s, you had that kind of twisted aspect of our language. It's not twisted to me because I'm a Latin teacher, but to most normal human beings, that's who speak English, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
But to a nicer guy, it couldn't happen, right? Buddy Rogers would get hit in the groin by the baby face.
Okay.
And he wouldn't be able to continue. And then
logically,
the baby, right?
Because somebody kicks you in the
chone
pills.
shot, yeah, and it's always an accidental chone shot. But then the babyface would be awarded the belt, and he would refuse it because he didn't win it legally. He'd won it with an illegal accidental move.
Okay.
So this was one of those times. So Bobo Brazil, no, I can't do it. I'm an honorable man. We'll just have to have the match again some other time.
Okay.
Creative finish. So that brings us to Ron Simmons. Now, Ron Simmons was very much the first black recognized world champion.
Okay.
And WCW pushed him to that title using racism. It is WCW. The guy in charge...
Ted Turner.
Well, no, here's the interesting thing.
Okay.
Ted Turner, he owned the whole umbrella, and he liked that he had a part in it, and he'd always make sure they had money, even though everybody else in his organization wanted to starve it and let it die. But he didn't run it day to day. He brought in a guy who would then hire other people to run it. So WCW had a guy in charge named Cowboy Bill Watts. Cowboy Bill Watts had been a wrestler. He had, I think, sold out the Madison Square Garden 3 times with with Bruno Sammartino.
Okay.
So Bruno sold it out, but he was the heel who was wrestling against him.
Okay.
Now, he'd had a very successful run as a booker in the Mid-South, and his formula was pretty simple. Get a popular black babyface and have him defeat all comers. You may have heard of this guy, Junkyard Dog.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what he's got. So anyway, Cowboy Bill Watts had Ron Simmons' ascent to the title come through his facing and handling racism. Now, at the time, Lex Luger was a bad guy, and he approached Ron Simmons and said, "You're pretty good. You should be my chauffeur."
Ooh.
And the weird thing is Simmons would actually then go on to lose to Luger because they're building Luger in this other way. And then Simmons started challenging Vader, who I think in WCW at that time was known as Big Van Vader.
Okay.
Now, he was a mountain of a man who 450 pounds and was the first man to do a true moonsault at his size. First big man to do a true moonsault.
Okay.
Bam Bam Bigelow did a faux moonsault. He basically kind of leaned backward and jumped backward, but was like turned halfway. So yes, he got the full rotation, but he was twisted. So Vader gets the credit. Anyway, so Vader's manager is Harley Race. Harley Race is a goddamn legend, but also he's a legendary prick. He said,
"There's a lot of these guys in wrestling."
Oh, God, well, it's a carny territory thing, you know. So, Harley Race said that Ron Simmons was unworthy. By the way, Ron Simmons, I don't know if you know, he is one of the very few people. He came in 9th in the Heisman Trophy contest.
Oh, wow.
But he was a defensive player. And defensive players never get considered for Heisman trophies. His number was retired at FSU.
Oh, wow.
He's a legend. Yeah. Anyway, so Harley Race said that Ron Simmons was unworthy as an opponent because he was just an errand boy. Back in the day,
wow.
Harley Race said that a boy like him would have carried his luggage.
Holy shit.
Now, this is 1992 in a Georgia-based territory with a Midwestern former world champion talking to a black wrestler.
Wow.
Now, all of this was booked by a man who once supported Lester Maddox. I don't know if you know who Lester Maddox was. Lester Maddox had a business. He had a restaurant, and he chose to close it down instead of serve black customers in 1965.
Yeah.
Maddox would then go on to become governor of Georgia.
Yep.
Now, Bill Watts spoke of this support in 1992. And he'd also informed WCW, hey, just so you know, I have spoken in support of Lester Maddox. And they're like, you know, they're based in LA or in Atlanta. And they're like, the Lester Maddox? He's like, yeah, I supported his ability to shut down his business instead of, you know, serve to black people because that's his property and blah, blah. And he explained it away. Now, WCW was owned by Ted Turner, as you said. Ted Turner had as his vice president for the Atlanta Braves, Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
When Hank Aaron heard about this, he pressured Bill Shaw, who is Ted Turner's president of the organization, to fire Bill Watts in 1993. That's a lot of names to pull. So Bill Shaw is kind of the capo regime under Ted Turner.
Yeah.
Hank Aaron is off to the side over here on
under the Braves.
But he goes back up to the capo regime and says, get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Because that's not okay. So, that's 93 where Watts gets fired. But Ron Simmons beat several heel contenders to defend his belt, and eventually he would lose it back to Vader in late December 1992. So he wins in September, I want to say September 1st. Let's see if I actually wrote down the actual date. No, I just have it as September. Okay. But I know that he loses it December 30th or 31st. So he doesn't quite make it to the next year. And he loses in Baltimore, I want to say. Because that's typically when they would go through Baltimore, was in December. And yes, I know that.
Of course you do.
Of course they do. His reign was remarkable as a first, but fairly unremarkable beyond that. The belt had already lost value since Ric Flair had left with the original belt in 1991. And that was due to a fight that he'd had, I believe, with Bill Shaw. Or not Bill Shaw, I'm forgetting the other guy's name. But the territory was also suffering despite the cable network, and WWF at the time was pushing really, really hard.
Yes.
More on them later, though. Anyway, there's a brief inversion of racial expectations in wrestling in 1992. And Ron Simmons was that inversion from August 2nd, 1992 until December 30th, 1992.
Okay.
Now, August 2nd to December 30th. Early November fits right between those.
Yeah, the election.
And into that era steps Bill Clinton. He played the saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show in the summer of 1992. He, the first baby boomer president, defeated the incumbent George Bush. And back then, baby boomers were seen as something hopeful.
That was a long time before boomer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toni Morrison, a few years later, was lamenting the way that Republicans were attacking Bill Clinton. And she called out that the embattled president was, quote, White skin notwithstanding, he was, quote, our first black president.
Oh, yeah. That was a huge quote.
Yeah. Now, she went on, quote, blacker than any actual black person who could ever be elected in our children's lifetime. She was wrong there, and I'm glad. After all, Clinton displays almost every trope of blackness. Single-parent household, born poor, working class, saxophone-playing, McDonald's and junk food-loving boy from Arkansas. Now, her characterization of him was taken largely out of context, and I think it's important to note that she was doing so to highlight the Republican attack on him, starting with Whitewater and the attacks on Hillary Clinton, and working their way to the Lewinsky scandal. And that attack was born of the culture wars that Buchanan had started in 92, which I've already covered fairly extensively in episodes 58 through 60. Bill Clinton's presidency was a watershed moment for traditionalists. The Republican Party had held the White House for 12 years straight. And if you go back to 1968, they'd held it with one 4-year exception continuously for 24 years.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That part of the math, because it was all before my
Baked in,
lifetime, never occurred to me.
Now you see why people were so entitled to the White House. Yeah. That's a generation.
Holy shit.
And if you go back from 68 to 60, that's another 8 years. So with a total of 12 years, you can go all the way back to 52.
Good
so,
God almighty.
Yeah. So 32 years with the exception of 8.
Wow.
But yeah, 24 with the exception of 4. Bill Clinton coming into the White House is a hugely unsettling event for white establishment America. That in itself carries with it a sense of change, and therefore, if you're trying to hold on to power, a sense of chaos.
Yes.
But first, there's more to explore on the issue of race when it comes to this period of time, and sadly, it'll be more of the same over and over again with just different headlines. So, let's go into sci-fi for a minute. In September of 1993, Avery Brooks becomes the first commanding officer of a Star Trek series, Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
He was a widower, raising his black son, running a space station, and doing all of it while having a fairly authentic emotional life, actually, in as much as one can on a Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
But it was, at its core, a story about a black man's love. His love for his deceased wife crippled him for a while, and the writers held that really quite dear. It was the reason that Sisko threw himself into his work so completely. His love for his son powered him. It gives him a moral center, a moral compass that he can hold on to. And eventually, his love for his later girlfriend, who becomes his wife after a really long time, Cassidy Yates.
Yes.
Whom he actually gets sent off to prison for a bit because she's working with the Maquis, and then he destroys the Maquis, and then she comes out, and then
it's the whole,
really good writing.
Yeah.
He pursues it with the same vibrance of a man who is deeply in love because he's pursuing it as a man who's deeply in love.
Yes.
Avery Brooks and the writers of Deep Space Nine depicted a black man loving healthily, loving deeply, and loving passionately. And it's a black man in a leading role on an already purposely diversified cast and series. Still, notice that it's 1993 and this is happening.
Yes.
In June of 1994, O.J. Simpson was arrested and then charged with the murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her paramour, Ron Goldman.
Yes.
There was so much that went on in this trial that made it so bizarre. First, there's just the logistics. There's a late-night flight to Chicago, an arrest, a suicide note, an appeal on TV from a friend to turn himself into the police, a slow-speed chase, which is going to come in later with wrestling, with a friend in a different white Bronco because he worshipped OJ so much that he bought the same kind of white Bronco.
Yeah.
With Simpson threatening to kill himself in the back of the Bronco. Add to that football celebrities going on public radio to plead with him not to kill himself, including Walter Payton. National broadcast break-ins to various shows, including the NBA Finals. The poor Knicks, they just can't get a break. A clear kit bag to flee the country, and all of that before any arraignment.
Yeah. Yeah, it was everything. We talked in the episodes about Cardassian jurisprudence, which is the kind of niche thing that, we're the only podcast I think anybody's ever done about that. But
if you find another one that does that, you go listen to that podcast.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Because, wow. But, the fact that
Now I'm really
this
curious.
is still, yeah, I know, I kind of am too. Because we're pointy headed that way.
Hey,
But
Derek Lipkin,
yeah.
friend of the show.
Hey,
You know jurisprudence pretty well. If you find us a podcast that talks about Cardassian jurisprudence, please let us know.
yeah, other than ours. But we talked in those episodes about this moment that we were in, where trials were televised.
Yes,
and the O.J. Simpson trial was the
trial. Yeah,
genesis of that.
Yeah.
I mean that was when that really had its first major moment in the Zeitgeist.
Yep.
And if the glove doesn't fit,
You must acquit.
you must acquit. I mean, all of the drama in the courtroom, all of the craziness outside the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
There have been mini-series made
At least two that I know of.
about everything that went on, because it was just so bonkers.
Yes.
And I mean, part of that is O.J. Simpson as a personality is kind of bonkers.
Yeah, he's a interesting cat. He was on the Naked Gun movies.
Yeah.
He was a national celebrity known for his football. He was one of the first black men to actually get an endorsement contract on a national chain.
Yeah.
He's a big deal.
Yeah.
And here's what's weird for me. OJ was famous for eschewing race. At a time where other black athletes were taking stands against racism.
Yeah.
He said,
yeah.
I'm not black, I'm OJ.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't take stands. He was famously quoted for saying that. And you've got Bill Russell. You've got Wilt Chamberlain. Well, less so Wilt, but more Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali went to jail.
Yeah.
You've got a whole bunch of people. And at this time, Muhammad Abdel-Rauf, I think in 1994, he refused to stand for the pledge or the singing of the national anthem.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And pretty much lost his basketball career for it. Anyway, he is now. He's pushing the bar, opening doors for black athletes when it came to commerce.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting that, again, to be a mediocre white man, you can do whatever you want. But if you are excellent as a black man, if you are excellent at something, you are also responsible for all the other aspects of life.
Yeah.
In the public eye. Not very fair. That's I think speaking for myself as a mediocre white man, I think one of the greatest privileges that white men have is mediocrity.
Yeah.
If we're successful at something, Chris Rock says this. He says, I live in this neighborhood where there's 4 black people that live in the whole neighborhood. And I don't know if it's still true, but it was in 2004 he said this. He says there's me, Missy Elliott, and I forget who else he names. I think there's an athlete in there, and then there's somebody else. And he says, so there's me. Okay, I'm a pretty famous comedian. I do all right. Missy Elliott, amazing musical talent. And he names an athlete, and he names somebody else, probably another musician. He says, you know who my neighbor is? He's a fucking dentist. And that's kind of the thing, So
yeah.
OJ is opening the door for black men in terms of commerce. If you don't have OJ in the 70s and early 80s, you don't have Jordan necessarily.
Yeah.
So he's opening the door for black athletes when it comes to commerce, not necessarily on purpose. He doesn't sit there and go, "Look at all I'm doing for everybody." But
yeah, no.
he's running it up the middle, as it were.
He well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, he got a national company and a national commercial series when no other black athletes did, and it's fairly undeniable from a capitalism perspective.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it definitely is. I think what I find interesting about all that is, as you say, he made a very big deal of eschewing. I love your use of that word in this context. Any kind of racial baggage or racial element to any part of it. I'm as you say, he said, I'm not black, I'm OJ.
Mm-hmm.
But society, as much as he wanted to eschew it, it's white society, on the one hand, agreed with him. Well, it's not about whether he's white or
Oh
black
yeah,
or
that
whatever.
plays absolutely to the white middle.
That totally plays to the middle, and I think there's a level of half totally genuine and half
playing the game
Absolutely. To him doing that. And I think in every account of his career,
mm-hmm.
and just people talking about him as a person, it's really clear that in his own head,
mm-hmm.
the number one thing that mattered
was OJ. Absolutely. Which could speak to a lot of societal pressures on here's how you can be a successful person if you are black.
This is true.
It's quite a hemming in.
Oh yeah,
that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, in LA, the black community knew this about OJ. And even though they may have enjoyed his football playing skills and his celebrity prior to the trial, they saw him as having denied his community, choosing to live in Brentwood with the rich white folks.
Yep.
Not really black. But once the trial takes place in LA, and it's pretty clear that the police also fucked up in terms of procedure.
Oh,
and
hugely.
In the public zeitgeist that they framed him.
Yeah.
And more on that later. Their history in LA of racism as a police department is more than enough to swing the black community in LA into supporting Simpson, despite his repeated denial of them.
Oh yeah, well it was an interesting kind of commentary
mm-hmm.
at the time that was, I mean, and I don't have any quotes to pull word for word, but there was kind of this commentary about, at the end of the day, he is one of us.
Yeah.
In this way, like, we don't like him very much, but at the end of the day,
look what they're doing to him.
Look what they're doing. Yeah.
If they can do it to him, they can do it.
They can do it to the rest of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So things shift because of everything I'd mentioned earlier. Latasha Harlins, Rodney King, Mark Furman, all these things happened. Chokeholds being illegal and the police being mad about it.
Yeah.
Daryl Gates' comments. The whole thing comes to a head in a very weird way in a trial that involved a man who'd all but actively abandoned his roots and his communities, but who couldn't escape how the white power structure still saw him. And he was later proven to have violated Brown's and Goldman's civil rights by killing them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he did it. He was found not guilty in 1995 at the end of the trial. Incidentally, it was October of 1995 when he was found not guilty. Did I mention that one of the jurors gave the Black Power salute to OJ after the verdict was read? That happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty clear case of jury nullification.
Yeah.
That's
like the system we have. And how many white people got off?
I know. I'm not. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
That's and
that
the
did
thing
happen, and it's one of those. Like we got one off finally. Was kind of the mentality.
Was the mentality from a lot of folks. And the thing is, at the end of the last episode, I talked about a high school classmate of mine.
Mm-hmm.
In 95 into 96, I was still in touch with him, and he and other people in my social circle, which was as you talked about, the soup you were cooking in was more of a chowder. So was mine.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that but he committed murder. And like you did it. We all know he did it. How can you just let him go?
Right.
The way that wound up reinforcing white indignance.
Yes.
Is really a thing.
Yeah.
Is really very noticeable. It was one more brick in the wall, as it were,
well done.
of to reinforce every negative stereotype about African American people, black people, and their relationship to law and order. And the flip side of it, which is how many times in how many places have white people done the exact same thing?
Yeah.
When the victim was black or Hispanic or Asian or whatever. The big difference is in a lot of places, the nullification happened before there was a jury involved.
Right.
Look at Emmett Till's killers.
I was going to say, like,
Roy
Bryant called. And,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my first go-to as well.
Yeah.
Was like, hey, here's two people that, like, straight up said, oh, yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassin. Like,
Yeah.
look at, you can't even begin to talk about the number of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And on a moral level, it's abhorrent.
Yes, it is.
On a strictly political race relations, let's look at how the system is working level.
Yeah.
It's a bit more like you need to recognize how we got here.
Yeah, you've created a system wherein pointing out that he got off is not an immediate like, oh my God, that's awful. It's like, yeah, but you create a system where but is the norm. Like that's
yeah.
I would point out, by the way, that James Earl Ray did get arrested and tried, and he did get convicted. So he did serve time.
This is true. Yes, James.
But you're 100% right about Roy Bryant and his brother-in-law, whose name I forget.
Yeah.
But the mood in LA, like I was saying after the trial, was, especially in the black community, celebratory as hell. Yeah. There was a reported feeling of, we finally got a win. It didn't matter anymore that he was the murderer. The police had such a long history of abuse and corruption. Like I said, you created a system that any black man getting to walk free after a trial, even after he'd abandoned and ignored his whole community, when so many people had walked free after killing or attacking black people in LA, even in the last couple years, was a cause for celebration. White people were aggrieved, frustrated, felt cheated. On one level, clearly the authorities had failed to do their job correctly, and a murderer had walked free. On a deeper level, a black man had killed a white woman and went free.
Yeah.
And on an even deeper than that level, the structures that were in place to keep... here I go talking about structures again.
No, you get into trouble when you do that.
That's fine. The structures that were in place to keep white people safe and secure at the expense of black people in LA had been dealt a body blow by a black lawyer, Johnny Cochran. And he kind of becomes a bit of a villain in this to the white community. Was this which in itself is interesting to me. Like, there's like this, well, OJ couldn't help it kind of aspect to it, and it's really the smart black guy that's the one you got to watch out for. It's like, that's some really fucked up racism there. Like
the level of ugliness there. It's like an onion. It has so many layers. Of nasty.
Oh, and just like you're comparing piles of shit, and you and I both know that when you've had a bowel movement, there are good poops and bad poops.
Yeah.
And like these different racisms are like different layers,
different consistencies of crap.
Yeah. So was this a sign of white people's hegemony slipping culturally? Traditionally, they had that shit locked down, but now not so much. One got through. And on what I think is an even deeper than that level, white people in LA didn't really care about Latasha Harlan's murder by a Korean shop owner because it wasn't white on black violence, and it was in a black neighborhood. They didn't really care about Rodney King being beaten so badly by the police. After all, he was, quote, resisting arrest, according to the police who'd bragged about beating him. They didn't care that video evidence made it clear that the police had overstepped their bounds and beat a man nearly to death. They cared that black people burned down and made LA unsafe for white people. They cared that Reginald Denny was attacked with such glee, and they cared that black people now were expressing joy at a white woman's black murderer going free. White people older than their 30s were aggrieved, felt their traditions were under assault, felt that they were losing their culture war, and that had been a part of the lexicon for a few years now, and they were resentful of it.
Okay.
Additionally, all that's going on in terms of race, here's a quick jaunt through some other stuff that I'd brought up in prior episodes. In December of 1993, the Department of Defense instituted a legal framework under which queer folk wouldn't be actively sought out and drummed out of the service. This was called the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. The thing to keep in mind here was that it came after a study that determined there was no harm to gay and lesbian service members in the armed forces. And it was a huge step forward at the time. I love that we can actually look back at it as a regressive garbage.
Yeah.
But that shows how far we've come. And because when it came out, there were episodes about it in all sorts of primetime TV. And it was seen as a big move forward. In 1995, Shannon Faulkner became the first woman to enroll in the Citadel, a formerly all-boys military academy. I talked about that much more in other episodes. Okay. In 96, you've got U.S. versus Virginia, determined that any school getting any federal funding had to abide by the protections of the federal law, which means that banning women from attendance is illegal and grounds for being shut down. In 1997, Ellen featured an episode where the titular character, Ellen, came out as gay on TV. The next year, Will and Grace came onto the networks featuring a main character who was gay. Now, he was acceptably gay because he was still very much othered, but he was gay. Neither of these was the first gay character on TV, however. Do you know who that was?
Not off the top of my head, I do not.
Billy Crystal in Soap.
Right!
He wasn't a main character, but he wasn't just a gay punchline either. And still, these two shows really moved the needle in terms of representation.
Yeah.
You know, a few years later, you had Bosom Buddies where they're pretending, you know, and you had Jack Tripper pretending to be.
I cannot believe that I forgot about Billy Crystal and Soap.
I'm still waiting for someone to put Soap on a streaming service so that
oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm invisible.
Here are the so-and-sos. And here are the so-and-sos. I forget their names.
Yeah.
Because I was significantly younger when watching it than you are.
Fuck you.
In 1994, as I detailed in episodes 58 through 60, NAFTA changed the way America did business with its neighbors, and in a lot of really important ways, and was seen as a defining objection-worthy issue at the time. Thank goodness we learned, and it wasn't used dishonestly to gather power anytime thereafter. And thank goodness it didn't feed a dragon of untruth and a narrative of isolation later. We are way too smart for that.
Indeed.
Okay, so there's this wobbling of the culture. Okay, you've got racial unrest. You've got just like the structure that's in place is being shown to be so
deeply flawed.
Balsa wood. Yeah. And all the stuff having to do with gender. And sexuality. All of these things. So, you know, and so of course they're really upset when another white man becomes president. Look what's happening.
Yeah.
The
wrong kind of white guy. Yes.
Right. So there's a serious wobbling. And the funny thing is, he is everything that they pretend to love, too. We're out here for the common man. He was the common man.
You know, at that time, I'm going to say the Republican establishment had not started claiming to be for the common man.
Okay, fair enough.
That level of bullshit, false populism.
Yeah, it comes around in 2000.
Is a product of Bush 2.
That's a reaction to the Clinton thing, actually.
We need to seize
that back.
We need to get the Bubba vote.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's, you know, who would you rather have a beer with?
Yeah.
We're not picking a drinking buddy. We're picking
somebody who won't
the
send
chief executive of our government. Yeah.
So there's a big time wobbling in the culture. The youth culture is defining itself more and more separately from the dominant culture as well. Yeah. Not just, I'm going to go out and have fun, but don't worry, I'm going to come back and get a job and work just like Dad did. Now, in itself, it is unsteadily transitioning. The dominant culture is unsteadily transitioning from the war babies, the silent generation, to the baby boomers. Things are also changing faster than they had previously and in harder to see ways, given computerization and telecommunications specifically. What's pretty cutting edge in 1995 will be a fading memory in 2005. Yes. But what was cutting edge in 1995 had clear antecedents in 85.
Oh, yeah.
So that 10-year gap, you had CDs and you still had CDs. The next 10 years, CDs are gone, daddy, gone.
Yeah.
long distance phone calls, same thing.
Yeah.
Computer storage, cell phones.
Yeah.
It's not that they didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
But that in 2005, you've got a cell phone that is like you're only a couple years away, I think, from the Apple phone, from the iPhone. I think that's '07.
Is it that early? 07?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was directing plays and I saw a kid playing pool on one.
Okay.
I know
really
it was,
early. That's a really early iPhone, but yeah.
So
okay, yeah, no, you're only a couple of years away from. Yeah, no, you're right. Only
so
a
you're
couple of years away
on
from
Blueberries.
smartphones.
You're on the texting is a thing.
Oh yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Because I remember resisting it.
yeah. Nokia phones.
Yeah.
The technology had gone. This is funny. My wife and I were actually talking about when she was a kid. Spent a couple of years living in Florida. And while they were in Florida, her father had a company car for the big construction firm that he was working for.
Sure.
And it was a huge big deal that he had a car phone.
Right. I remember that.
And
I hung
it
out
was
with hoodlums who would break into people's cars and steal their phones.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And I think he didn't have one of them, but of course, the first generation cellular phone was, as tall as one of our.
Walkie-talkie.
Yeah, it was bigger than walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
It was without the antenna. It was the height of our microphones.
Well, it was used as a prop in wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Paul Heyman, at that time known as Johnny Dangerously,
okay,
he played like a schmarmy New York agent type wrestler, and
okay.
he would use it would be the foreign object that he would hit people over the head with.
Because you could do that.
Yeah, that shit
with
would
an
hurt.
80s cell phone because it was an 8-pound battery pack.
Yep.
Yeah. That would only last about 20 minutes of actual calling time. But and that's the first generation of cellular phones, and then by 2000 you have the first flip phones. It's changed to something that you could fit in your pocket. And but then, as you're saying, the pace then goes from something that will fit in your pocket in air quotes, but is still pretty bulky, to being 5 years after that it's small enough to lose.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's future shock. It's Toffler.
Absolutely.
Being proven right.
So you've got all these shifts that are happening that in 10 years from 95 to 2005 are going to be wildly different than they were. And you know what it is that momentum too, right?
Yeah.
So in the WWF, back to wrestling.
Yeah.
A company that had been rocked by steroid scandals for a few years, starting in 91, a new generation of wrestlers was coming into their own. It was fledgling from about 92 forward, too. Some of this had to do with the economic recession felt worldwide, a largely neoliberal capitalist trickle-down effort that had depressed wages, curtailed production, and cut services within austerity programs that just helped to help keep things afloat, since the top tax rate in the U.S. had dropped from 70% at the top rate to just 28% at the top rate in the 1980s. This meant fewer folks coming to see wrestling.
Yeah.
By 1993, WWF looked vastly different than how it had looked 5 years earlier, 88 to 93.
Okay.
In 88, that's WrestleMania 4. That's Hulk Hogan losing on Saturday night's main event to Andre the Giant, having two referees who are actual twins. That was a thing that happened.
Okay.
5 years later, it's 1993. Hulk Hogan's not even in the. I'm pretty sure he's not even in the organization anymore.
No.
If he is, he's come back. I think he comes back in 94 though. But by 93, it looks really, really different. Wrestlers were far smaller. Some of this has to do with the steroid scandal.
Yeah.
But also Vince McMahon had publicly, in the trial where he was indicted, admitted again in public to kayfabe. Now, for people that don't know kayfabe is keeping up the fiction of wrestling being real. All of it. So you don't talk about the outcomes of the match outside of the locker room. If you play a Russian, then you are a Russian in life.
You're
It sucks.
You're in character 24/7,
Yes.
365. Yeah.
Yes.
Until
Yeah.
your gimmick changes.
Right. Yeah. But
As
usually
long as
you go away for a while.
you go,
and then
yeah.
you come back.
Yeah. Like
Go away, learn a new hold is what it's called.
it really is a testosterone laden soap opera.
Yes.
Because that's exactly how like
Testosterone and baby oil.
I don't know why that got me so bad, but it did. But that's exactly the way that characters and plot lines work. Like when I sit down, occasionally my wife will go to catch up on her soaps.
Sure.
And she watches. This is important. She watches Days of Our Lives.
Okay.
Which is the same one that my mother watched when I was a kid.
Yeah, no, that's the standard bearer. Like, if you ever think soap opera, most people think Days of Our Lives. They even have the theme song in their head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like sands through the hourglass.
Right.
Yeah. So, and the number of times that it's the same character, but they look different because it's a new actor.
Right.
One of two things is going to happen. Either there's been a subplot where they've had plastic surgery, or we're all just going to ignore the fact that they look and sound completely different.
Yes.
But, or same actor comes back and is playing a different person now.
Evil
twin.
Yeah. Cousin who looks alike.
Because and the only plot point I don't think I've seen wrestling do is wrestlers aging up at an unrealistic rate. Because on Days of Our Lives...
Count? Does pregnancy count?
What are you going to tell me?
Well, because Lita got pregnant by Cain and had his demon spawn inside her, and then her pregnancy accelerated at like a rate of like a week is a day kind of thing. Okay. To the point where when she was clearly showing and then she got knocked off the thing and she miscarried, you could tell that she had truly miscarried because she went right back to being her normal, not pregnant self. Yes. Yeah. Within a week or two. So.
Okay, so
and the guy that did it, his name was Gene Snitsky. Yeah, and Gene Snitsky, you're gonna love this. He, so Cain is really pissed because his demon spawn, didn't get born. Yeah, and so he's going after Gene Snitsky. So now is Cain the good guy or the bad guy because he raped Lita? But he lost his kid. Yeah. So then he's going after Snitsky, and Snitsky.
There are so many layers of this.
Oh my god!
Just like
the ick that doesn't even get to the Katie Vick story. Look that one up. But Gene
I don't know if I want to.
You don't.
Okay.
Gene Snitsky, he's holding a little baby, a baby bundle in the ring, and he calls out Lita, and she comes down, and he's teasing her about her miscarriage that he'd caused. And by the way, his theme song is called "It Wasn't My Fault." And he's like, do you want to hold my baby? You no, you can't. And you can't because you can't take care of a baby. And then he punts the baby into the audience. And that wasn't the worst thing that they'd done.
Holy shit. Okay. So miscarriage is a plot point.
Oh, several. I mentioned another one in here.
Rape is a plot point.
Yes.
And punting a baby.
Yeah. Oh, necrophilia is too.
Mother, puss bucket. So, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that you won't see on Days of Our Lives.
All right. At one point, Vince McMahon wrestles a handicap match. He and his son Shane wrestle a handicap match. Well, it's not a handicap match. It's just that Shawn Michaels' partner never showed up. Shawn Michaels' partner was God. McMahon goes into a church and mocks God. And then they have a match where God gets an entrance and he doesn't show up. And so Shawn has to fight alone against Vince and his son.
But okay, do they actually go full Beckett and like he loses because God like truly didn't show up, or do they go wins. American Evangelical?
Oh yeah.
God actually showed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, God doesn't show up. Shawn is just able through his faith to persevere and win.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
God doesn't need to show up.
Oh, okay. God
Yeah.
is not mocked.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Right.
So-
Okay.
So
Silly Catholic.
Yeah.
of me, Right. Okay. I'm thinking Legend of Roland. Right.
No,
okay.
no, no.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong paradigm.
so anyway,
Wow.
so what you got on Days of Your Life?
So much ick
Yeah.
going on there.
Yep. So-
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, yeah, no, it's a soap opera.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, so
it
in
is
wrestling, when you go
murder,
away,
murder gymnastics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you go,
Which I haven't referred to it as, even though I
and you need
said
to,
I was
yeah.
going to. Yeah.
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 But
Start
in wrestling, you
spangly murder gymnastics.
In wrestling, for instance, there was a guy named Barry Darso, who was Crusher Khrushchev, I want to say, in WCW, and he was an American who had like fallen in with the Russians in the early 1980s, and he was the only Russian that could speak English.
Okay.
Right. Well, then he goes to WWF and becomes Smash of the of Demolition.
Okay.
Well, once Demolition disbands, he becomes the Repo Man.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when he goes back to WCW, he becomes the Blacktop Bully, which is basically a truck driver.
All right.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Same dude.
Yep, same
Not
guy.
rushed anymore.
Nope.
And like, okay.
Yep. So, like I said, they look really, really different, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the first time that he admitted to kayfabe was actually in 1989 because he said, "Why are we giving all this money to the athletic commissions when we're not athletics? Like, we're not actual contests." So in Jersey, he went on record as saying, "It's kayfabe, y'all." Like, so he broke kayfabe. Vince McMahon did. Vince McMahon broke kayfabe in 1989 in New Jersey.
Well, because that's where the money was.
Yes. I just want to bring that out because in a few episodes, let's see, we're on page, 13 out of 31. In 7 episodes, it's going to come back. But now, in the trial in 1984, McMahon leans in hard on the idea that wrestling was sports entertainment and not a real contest. Therefore, steroids, who cares? And also, I didn't give them out. It's a nice double denial there. Now, the main wrestlers at that time were Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Diesel, and I mentioned those two real quick because at one point after they'd left, the WWF was like, well, we still own those names, and then they put 2 other wrestlers into those roles.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
Days of Our Lives all over again.
Yes,
all right,
including one of them, the fake Diesel, would later go on to become Kane.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, and people would hold up signs every once in a while. Kane runs on fake Diesel power. It's kind of funny.
Ooh.
Yeah. Wrestling fans, they can be smart. So Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, one of the first wrestlers I ever saw wrestle when he was just known as Big Scott Hall.
Okay.
Diesel, Yokozuna, Crush, Tatanka, they were the main wrestlers, and the standard bearers were mostly Bret the Hitman Hart, my favorite, and the Undertaker.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, they were all touted as, quote, the new generation. That was the thing. And the idea was we'd gone through the Hulkamania era. We'd gone through the golden age of wrestling.
Yeah.
And those guys are all gone now. So we have the new generation, which in itself is derivative.
Yes.
Okay. Postmodernism at its finest.
Yeah.
It was an attempt to distance and distinguish the WWF from the WCW at the time, because WCW had now raided a lot of their bigger names and older talents.
Right. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Including
Hogan. Yeah. Now, I find that interesting too, because one of the ways that Vince McMahon built the WWF was he went into all the territories.
Oh, and he stole their people.
And stole their people.
Yeah.
Offered them better money.
Yeah.
Now, WWF was taking things in a new direction now that the superstar, Hulk Hogan, had left in 1993. And the verbiage built around the idea that these were new, iconoclastic stars who were an update to what had brought the WWF into the public eye. But in the reality...
Primary colors.
Yeah. Well, the colors are 90s
Oversized.
colored, though. It's a lot more pink, a lot more turquoise.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying is I'm actually trying to say, like, okay, wait, you're saying this is what brought the WWF into the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
Red and yellow.
Yep.
and I mean the palette
Yes.
of Hulkamania
Yep.
and that era
Yep.
was very distinct.
Yes.
And then the palette of the 90s was, we're going to introduce a lot more secondary
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to go out on a limb and use the word tertiary colors.
Yes.
Like, and the whole 90s aesthetic was bonkers.
It's back.
God help us.
It's back with a new flair, though. Just like when we were kids, the 70s aesthetic was back with a new flair.
Yeah.
And then, kids these days are
Yeah,
pulling the
right.
same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I know. It's all cyclical, but God almighty.
Now, in reality, they're a step backward, I think, because Bret Hart was a standard bearer in so many ways for the WWF, but he was also, so he's the new generation, right?
Yeah.
But he'd been around since WrestleMania 2,
Okay.
but he'd been under and mid-card,
Yeah.
but he was a Canadian legacy. He was a second-generation star who'd focused on technique and older storytelling conventions in the ring.
Yeah.
He may have been the next generation to make it big, but by no means was he a new type of wrestler. And because he was their main babyface, it shifted to wrestling. Technical traditional wrestling became more popular again. Now, I think this is really
So
important.
shooting rather than...
Yeah. And this is probably important because of the steroid scandals. So, look, we have people with tremendous athleticism and skill, and they're smaller. Bret Hart was only 6'1", 6'2". I know. And he was 234 pounds.
Okay.
Wow. Hulk Hogan was 303 pounds, and he was 6'8", 6'9".
I had forgotten he was actually that fucking huge.
Yeah, well, he's had so many surgeries that I think he's around 6'4" now.
Okay.
Yeah. But
well,
and
all
you
those
always
injuries
add a couple
can
inches.
do that too.
Yeah, well, especially when your main move is falling on your ass every night.
Mm-hmm.
That actually
will compress your
apparently.
spine. Yeah.
So yeah, he was their main babyface. Traditional wrestling, technical wrestling becomes more popular again. He tells amazing stories. Again, he is he is my favorite. During the golden era, the Hogan era, wrestling was largely about just the larger than life personalities, brawling and selling in the ring and having personal problems. Big men are making big moves for short matches in the 80s.
Okay.
Hugely successful model that popularized wrestling to a level it hadn't seen before, because it doesn't take much thinking to see what's going on in that ring.
Okay.
Now, there were big personalities who could go, and they could tell longer stories in the ring, and they're really performing at a higher level. But it wasn't new. It was a return to the traditional methods of wrestling, just with 90s colors.
Yeah. All right.
Now, WCW, for all the talent rating that it did, and despite it being a Southern company, which meant telling different stories, was also trying to nationalize. And in the process, they tried and mostly failed to copy what WWF was doing. You'll like this. You remember the Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah.
WWF made him an icon. Short-lived one, but an icon.
Yeah.
WCW, the Renegade. You ever hear of him?
No.
Exactly.
It just they couldn't get anything to stick.
Similar colors, similar gimmick, but never really got over.
Well, because it had already been done. I mean, that's part of the problem.
That is part of it. Although wrestling is self-devouring.
Cannibalizing.
Yes, it absolutely does. But you're right. I mean, when it's so closely done and it's like, hey, we got a guy that does that too. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. WWF had raided the NWA/WCW, and we'll talk about that a bit, for Lex Luger. Now, he was supposed to be the next Hulk Hogan in WWF, complete with a bus tour called the Lex Express, and it was a bust because Lex couldn't really work. He didn't know how to sell. Hogan, for all the criticisms people have for him, he could sell, and if you watch his Japanese matches, he could work.
Okay.
He actually could work. He just wasn't allowed to because he didn't need to, because that's not what we're doing.
Okay.
WCW signed Hogan to a contract and tried to recreate as much of Hulkamania as it could. And since he owned that title, he was able to work with it. But the WCW version of Hulkamania lacked the crisp production value. It felt like a community college play production of a James Bond movie.
I like that analogy.
Like, you can see where they're trying to go, but it just lacks scope,
it's
you know?
not working. Yeah.
Still, WWF was trying to get youth audiences' eyes on their product, and they had been for years, which absolutely explains Arsenio Hall having WWF wrestlers on his show. And I think that's a good place to end it because I want to start talking about comic books next. And then I'll get back to wrestling again.
Okay. Man.
So,
Holy crap. All right.
So, got any books you want to recommend this time around?
No.
Okay.
Dune again.
Yeah.
'Cause
It's a many series.
Eventually it's
Yeah.
coming. When we get through your, cross-sectional
Magnum
analysis
opus,
of an
yeah.
entire fucking decade.
Well, I'll recommend two to you then.
Okay.
The first one is Stokely Speaks, From Black Power to Pan-Africanism. This
Okay.
is Stokely Carmichael,
Yeah.
also known as Kwame Ture. Really good stuff written by him. And then the other one is a book by Bret Hart, which is my favorite wrestling book, I think, that I've ever read. And it's Hitman, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling.
All right.
It's a really good book. It's big because he took notes on everything. Now, it's absolutely from his perspective, but I tend to believe him more than I would believe Vince McMahon. So,
Well, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Because Vince McMahon, it's kind of like,
it's his job.
yeah.
It's his job. Like I don't even bear any animosity toward him on some levels because that's his fucking job. So what do you expect from a carnival owner?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you really want safety standards from that guy? Jesus Christ, He's drawing the beard on the bearded lady. Like she went bald from emphysema years ago, So all right, so I recommend those two books.
All right.
Anything you want to tell me that you've gleaned so far?
Not right now.
Okay.
Not at the end of this episode. I don't
Totally
think.
fair. Totally fair.
I do want to go back and just try to see if I can find like an article about the most bonkers wrestling plot lines.
Oh yeah.
Just
You can find a top 10 list.
because
Easy.
holy crap.
Oh yeah.
I thought Marlena getting possessed by the devil was crazy pants.
No, it's
the
not.
number of alien abductions they've had on the show was
No.
a thing. But
RoboCop rescued Sting once from a cage. Yeah.
Good night, folks.
Yeah.
We're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where do I take that.
Oh.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah.
Well, where can people find you on the social
Sparkly
medias?
Murder Gymnastics. They can find me on the social medias at EH Blaylock on Twitter and EH Blaylock on Instagram. They can find me as Mr. Blaylock on TikTok. Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at Duh Harmony on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me on twitch.tv/capital puns every Tuesday night, either playing games with my pun fellows or putting on a pun tournament.
There we go.
You can also find me on twitch.tv/iMac puns with my partner, Ian McDonald, talking about Marvel Strike Force.
Okay.
You can also find me, no, that would be advertising this podcast. No, I think, that'll do, Pig. It'll be just those for now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. And if you want to yell at both of us about something, if you disagree with Damian about the virtues of Bret the Hitman Hart,
come at me.
or anything else,
Come hard. Because to quote Roddy Piper, you do not throw rocks at a man who has a machine gun. Which, honestly, having studied the Intifada, I'm a little uncomfortable saying. But
so only on this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. But if you want to come at him about that, you can find the two of us collectively at Geek History Time.
tell us your
on
favorite
Twitter.
favorite really bad storyline.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'd look forward to reading that.
Yeah.
That'd be an education for me. And the source of much Googling and probably sleepless nights. How would they do that? Why would you? Why? So, on that note, I'm Ed Blaylock.
I'm Damian Harmony.
And until next time, keep rolling 20s.